In the small town of Willow Creek, nestled amidst rolling hills and flowing streams, there stood a restaurant known far and wide, mostly for its delectable meatballs, run by the well-respected Mr. Henderson. The establishment was named the Mississippi Meatball and had been a local favorite for years. The Mississippi Meatball, as people would call it, popped up out of nowhere years back. Patrons would flock from neighboring towns and far and wide just to savor the exquisite flavor of Henderson's meatballs, which were rumored to have a secret ingredient known only to the man himself. Some speculated it was a special blend of spices, while others whispered about a secret family recipe passed down through generations. Among the restaurant's regulars was Emily, a curious and discerning food critic with an insatiable appetite for culinary mysteries. With a keen palate and a knack for uncovering hidden gems, Emily had made it her mission to unravel the enigma behind Henderson's famous meatballs. You see, Emily has noticed people in the town started going missing ever since the man's famous meatball place popped up. She wondered if maybe this had anything to do with the secret ingredient. But she scoffed, playing it off in her head as a sick joke. Although, one fateful evening as Emily savored her meal in the cozy restaurant of the Mississippi Meatball, a thought crossed her mind. What if the secret ingredient wasn't a spice or a recipe, but maybe it was something far more sinister? The taste was just like nothing she had ever had the pleasure of trying before. Seeing as she could usually instantly pinpoint a distinct flavor or spice that would make the meal so popular, and this time she couldn't. This worried Emily. Driven by her curiosity, Emily embarked on an investigation, determined to uncover the truth behind the mouth-watering meatballs. She knew that this flavor that she was tasting was something different, something unlike she had ever tried. Emily could usually always figure out the secret, yet she never gave away the secrets, instead just showing the creator respect and adding it to her own personal cookbook. Something about not being able to identify the source just bothered Emily. She spent days scouring old newspapers and questioning locals, piecing together a puzzle as to what it could possibly be. Going through cookbooks and cooking infomercials until 4 in the morning sometimes, just to try to get an insight. She had gotten so desperate to the point she was ready to do something crazy to figure out this secret. Locals always said how Mr. Henderson would talk about his secret ingredient being locked in his basement, deep down a set of stairs that he said any normal person would get lost in. Now, exactly what this meant, she didn't know. But it wasn't going to stop her from what she had in mind. If she wasn't able to figure it out within the next day or two, she would have to break in and search around. It was the only way. But just the next 2 days showed little improvements on figuring the secret out. So, being at a standstill in her investigation, she chose to sneak in one night as the man closed shop. This would take some planning though, and she made sure that's what she did. One night as she finished up her meal at the establishment, she went and used the woman's restroom, and she unlocked and opened the window in the stall area. This way she could come in later on at night. Later on that night, she watched from afar as Mr. Henderson locked the front doors to his restaurant and slowly made his way to his truck. After seeing him pull away, she stepped out her car slowly and made her way to the window around the side of the building that she had left open earlier in the night. She made her way inside the tiny window, plopping onto the other side of it with an echoed thud ringing out throughout the empty and dark bathroom. She caught her breath as she slowly came to her feet, waiting for her eyes to adjust. Looking around, the bathroom was pitch black still, so she carefully made her way out of the stall and over to the exit door of the bathroom. She then had made her way down the dimly lit hallway and over to the front counter of the restaurant and starting making her way behind it. As she crept back into the kitchen, she got hit with the overwhelming scent of bleach and cleaning supplies. She felt immediately super dizzy but pushed on. She then realized how absolutely clean everything was, as she left dirty footprints on the clean floor as she walked deeper into the back area of the restaurant where the stairs led to the basement. As Emily went deeper into the basement, she stumbled upon a chilling revelation. Mr. Henderson was not only the owner of the restaurant, but also the town's elusive serial killer. His victims, unsuspecting travelers and wanderers, became unwitting ingredients in his culinary creations, all laid forth right in front of her. For years, he had been getting away with this, right under the townspeople's noses. Cut-up body parts stored in freezers, barrels of strange liquids, toes and ears and body parts were strung up as if it was a butcher shop. Emily suddenly felt sick to her stomach as she grabbed the nearest can to throw up in. As she leaned over the bin, though, a face of a victim stared back at her. This sent her falling to the ground, panicking. There was just so much victims. One thing Emily couldn't get out of her head was the last couple of meatballs she ate and enjoyed so much. All she seen now was the remains of human body parts, and refused to believe that's what tasted so good. There was no possible way. Shocked and horrified by her discovery, Emily grappled with the dilemma of what to do with the damning evidence she had uncovered. Should she expose Mr. Henderson's heinous crimes to the authorities, risking her own safety in the process? Or should she keep silent, allowing the grisly secret to remain hidden beneath the facade of culinary excellence? Either way, she couldn't think too deep into this now because she needed to get out of there. So taking as many pictures as she could, she sprinted up the stairs as fast as her legs would let her. Only the stairs never seemed to end. She kept running up them as fast as she could, and once she realized she wasn't making it anywhere, she turned back only to see the same thing. Endless stairs. At this point, Emily began panicking, hearing her own heartbeat in her ears, as she desperately ran back down the stairs, hoping to find an exit or end to all of this. She then suddenly seen what looked like grass below emerging. As she continued down the staircase, she made her way to the bottom, finally revealing a large and dark forest. It seemed to be enclosed by some sort of dome, so she knew instantly that this couldn't be normal. She was very confused and still very scared. She knew she hadn't gotten out just yet, but she didn't know quite where else to go. But slowly she stepped further into the forest, noticing large meatballs hanging from the trees around her. There was also a strange liquid that pulsated throughout the trunks of the largest trees in the area. Emily didn't know what to make of it. After seeing what she witnessed earlier, she had no interest in getting close to one of those famous meatballs ever again. She followed a dark path that stretched for a few minutes, until running into a run-down version of what seemed like Mr. Henderson's restaurant, the Mississippi Meatball. Except for some reason, this one had vines and moss all over it, and had a giant neon sign that said the Mississippi Meatball Man. Emily was cautious but curious, so she slowly made her way toward the front door of the establishment. When she got close, she swore she could hear slow jazz music playing from inside. She made her way inside first, immediately noticing the place seemed like it was empty. No more furniture or bar counters or anything. She studied the empty room, as for any clues as to what all of this was. She then heard a loud bang come from the back kitchen door. Haunted by the weight of her knowledge, Emily was suddenly confronted by Mr. Henderson in a tense showdown. They stared at each other for what seemed like hours to Emily, yet was only about a few seconds. With trembling hands and a curious mind, she revealed the truth behind the meatballs, laying out the dark secrets that had lurked beneath the surface of the Mississippi Meatball for so long. Mr. Henderson then asked Emily to take a seat, in which Emily immediately turned around, running, bursting out of the door to the establishment, only to trip down a set of stairs that weren't there before this. It had sent her tumbling down them, until she stopped at the bottom. As she regained her senses, she immediately noticed she was back inside of the forest, staring at the same old rundown building of the Mississippi Meatball from afar. It was at this point she gave up continuing to lay on the ground as Mr. Henderson walked up to her. He said, "It has seemed you have learned too much, Emily." With a swift motion, he put some type of cloth over her face, knocking her out instantly. When she regained consciousness, she found herself hung up by hooks in the same room she had discovered with all of the body parts. She had noticed the hooks were skewered through her hands, suspending her into the air. Yet she felt no pain, running on pure adrenaline, she assumed, or some type of drug that was wearing off. She thrashed on the chains, suspending her until one of the chains broke free. With this, she used her other hand to break the opposite chain, suspending her, resulting in a bloody mess, but she was free. She immediately stood up and ran as fast as she could, up the stairs, this time luckily leading to the kitchen, then through the main lobby and out the front doors of the establishment. She then came rushing into the police station, which wasn't located very far away, yelling at the policeman and not really making sense of herself. They couldn't get a full statement until she had recovered a little from her injuries, and once she had calmed down a little bit, the officers had gotten a recount of what she claimed happened to her, and so they set off to immediately investigate the Mississippi Meatball. The only thing was when they pulled up to the location of Mr. Henderson's establishment, it was gone. No trace of it ever being there. Dirt and soil is what remained of the restaurant. And as quick as the restaurant had popped up in the small town, is as quick as it disappeared. Emily was devastated. All the work she put into shedding light on this place has foiled, and all people could believe her off of was hearsay. Her photos on her camera, and her gallery of all the body parts and evidence, had all turned completely black. No more evidence of the restaurant ever being a thing. As the truth came to light, the once beloved restaurant fell into the history of the town, its reputation tarnished by scandal and betrayal. Mr. Henderson, now exposed as the town's most infamous killer, was never apprehended by the authorities, therefore, never bringing a impactful close to the story. In the aftermath of the shocking revelation, the town of Willow Creek struggled to come to terms with the sinister truth that had been lurking. They struggled with the fact that they had all been eating humans for the last couple years or so. Some residents of the town couldn't take it anymore and had committed. Others chose just not to believe the story and write Emily off as crazy. Maybe she just did the damages to herself, after all. She did end up finding solace in the knowledge that her relentless pursuit of the truth had brought the end to those terrible killings. One thing really always bugged Emily, though, and that was the fact that she couldn't stop craving Mr. Henderson's meatballs.